Not too long ago, I made a commitment to my Pro Game Masters Guild that I was going to live stream, publish a long form video, and publish a short form video every single day, 7 days a week. This was my new commitment. I kept this up for like 2 weeks straight. In doing this, my channel grew very much. Sometimes our emotional or creative tank is on empty. However, as a game master, as a creator, even as a human, I believe we need to keep showing up. Because when we show up consistently every day, this gives us control of one of the most controllable metrics of success, which is consistency. Hello friends, welcome back to GM Philosophy in the Morning. I am the GM Philosopher, and this is the channel where we empower game masters to run better games. It is great to have you. I am a full-time professional D&D game master and TTRPG content creator. I've been running TTRPG games for over 24 years, and this is my full-time gig and career. This is what I'm doing. I'm super pumped that you are here. And today, I want to talk about something that I don't know that I've ever talked about on this channel, but I want to talk about it. I sometimes find it difficult to find things to talk about because there's a lot of reasons for this. And I'm going to get very honest in this. So, just bear with me. We're going to get into it. So here's really where this video started, okay? I love YouTube. I also love D&D, obviously. And I love making YouTube videos about D&D related topics. I love sharing my ideas. I love the idea of empowering game masters to run better games. I love the idea of basically being someone who others can look to for encouragement, inspiration, motivation, ideas when it comes to running great games, be it D&D or whatever game you're running. However, I'm going to admit that my work week is a very emotionally taxing affair. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. It's very emotionally intensive. Running D&D games for me as a game master is an experience that is very much like intellectually draining is probably the right word. And that's because it's so creative. I'm constantly creating, kind of pushing my brain to, keep up with the player characters, doing math, doing lore, talking, sometimes, not only role-playing NPC, but also figuring out what's going on behind the surface and responding to private messages from players who are, doing sneaky stuff. And it's just very mentally taxing. Now, that's not a criticism. It's not a complaint in any way. I love it. That's part of the game, right? If you want to be a master of the game, you have to learn how to do these things, be able to keep up, right? You've got to be able to show up ready to put your mind to work in a creative way. And this is very fun. I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful to get to do this on a professional level. However, I will say this. There are times when between running games and then doing the YouTube, my brain feels a bit like scrambled eggs, right? I feel a little bit like creatively worn out. I feel a little bit like the reservoir has gone to empty. And sometimes I feel like it's difficult to find ideas. I don't think that this is much different from when we're running games. Sometimes we feel like this. Sometimes we may not feel like we have any great ideas. Sometimes we may feel like there isn't much creativity left, right? And sometimes the stress of real life, the stress of everyday life gets to us. That can play a part, right? There are definitely factors that weigh into how much emotional and creative energy I have on any given day. This last week was a particularly emotionally, I would say, heavy week in the work sector. Not for any bad reasons. It just was. I am I would say, I'm a person who, when I reach the end of my creative tank, so to speak, it gets really challenging for me to create. It gets really challenging for me to come up with any new ideas. It gets very challenging for me to film videos and this kind of thing. And the reason I'm saying this in this video is because I think that there are probably a lot of creators out there, D&D game masters, people who do YouTube, people who are running other games. You might reach a point when you feel like your creative tank is empty. You may reach a point where you are not sure where to go next. You may reach a point where you kind of think, I want to take a break, right? I need a little hiatus. But then I want to double down on something. And this is what I really believe. I firmly believe this. And we're going to take a bit of a transition here. Not too long ago, I made a commitment to my Pro Game Masters Guild that I was going to live stream, publish a long form video, and publish a short form video every single day, 7 days a week. This was my new commitment. I kept this up for like 2 weeks straight. In doing this, my channel grew very much. I increased book sales. By the way, my recent book, the Pro GM's Guidebook, all about how to take the dream of being a pro GM and either turn it into a valuable side hustle or even documenting how I went to full time with it, the tips and tricks that'll help you to create a serious actual business. This was basically the guidebook that I wrote documenting my 5-month process of going from 0 paid games to 5 full paid games, and then eventually leaving my JOB to jump over into full-time running games. And I haven't looked back since, and it's very, very awesome. So you're going to want to grab that if you have any, interest in running pro games. A lot of the lessons I learned along the way that, caused me to lose momentum or make mistakes, they're written in here. You can get months ahead of the game by grabbing this, 142 pages. Link is in the description. You can get it for about the price of 2 cups of coffee. Now, with that being said, a lot of great things happened when I made this commitment to double down on things. So there's a little bit of a resilience lesson here, okay? Sometimes our emotional or creative tank is on empty. However, as a game master, as a creator, even as a human, I believe we need to keep showing up. I took a couple days off from content during the earlier part of this week when my games were going. I run 5 games in the span of 3 days. So there's like a lot of creative energy expended. However, I regret that I let my video creation slip. I regret that I didn't stick 100% with my commitment to publish every day. The truth is, if I want to take my business to the place where I want it to go, I should be posting every single day. I shouldn't let anything stop me from doing that. It should be my first priority, just like showing up for my pro games should be a priority, right? Because when we show up consistently every day, this gives us like basically control of one of the most controllable metrics of success, which is consistency. Now, there's a lot of talk about GM burnout, and it is a real thing, right? And let me just be the first to say that you've got to do what you got to do. I mean, I took several days off of making content this week, even though I had committed to making content every day. Why did I do that? Because I burnt out. I ran out of time. I ran out of creative energy. I ran out of emotional energy, right? I kind of regret it. I did get a little time to recharge my brain. I was able to use that emotional and mental energy that I would have used making videos in my games. And because of that, I think my games were better. However, the real question that I need to take back with me to the laboratory now, I'm back engineer, is this. What can I do to prepare myself every day to be able to do both? Because the truth is, my business and my life and my goals need me to show up for both with enough creative energy to really get the job done every day. Now, I'm not like a hustle grind, cult guy. I've read David Goggins. I've read Jocko Willink. I believe very much in the power of hard work and consistency and showing up and being hardcore. And, I've watched a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. I believe very much in the grind, in showing up and hustling and in pushing yourself to show up even when other people cannot manage it, because this puts you ahead of the game. This puts you a level above your competition, because at least consistency is something you can always control. You always have control over consistency. It's not really a variable factor. The creative art stuff is a variable factor. I may run a plot arc in one of my games that some of my players are not super crazy about, even if I thought they were going to like it, because that's like a subjective factor. But none of my players can deny that I showed up for the game. This is a very consistent, objective, controllable factor. And if I want to succeed as a game master, if I want to succeed as a content creator, it's my best interest to keep showing up. But what if we start to feel really run down? What if we start to feel like we are actually stagnating in the creative department because we keep showing up, but our creative energy is kind of just bouncing along on empty? Let me tell you a little something about that, okay? Because if there's anybody around here who understands this, it's me. I am a very, I would say, consistent, keep pushing kind of guy. And over this last 2 weeks, I really pushed myself to make, those 3 pieces of video every day for my channel: the long form, the live stream, and the short form. There are creators out there who do way more than that. There are also a lot of creators out there who don't even publish that much in a week or even a month, much less a day. So I made that commitment because I knew I could do it, but would I do it was the real question. That got very difficult for me, that challenge, because at the time that I adopted that challenge, I was really more used to creating maybe 2 or 3 live streams a week, 2 or 3 long form videos a week, and maybe 2 or 3 shorts a week. So this really pushed me. But I will say this, over those 2 weeks that I was doing that, I got really into the habit. And every single day that I did it, it got a little bit easier. My muscles grew to accommodate the new workload. And as a result, my channel saw a lot of positive effects from that period of hard work, that period of greater consistency. Now, we can do the same thing in our D&D games. I have also realized that when I started running 5 games in the span of 3 days, there was a period of time where that threatened to overwhelm me, where I felt like I was sitting on empty creativity sometimes. But then as I kept showing up, and I have yet to cancel even a single pro D&D game since I started this pro GM journey. I have not canceled a single one. I've showed up with only 1 player at the table. I've showed up feverish, wrapped in a blanket. I've shown up hopped up on Dayquil because I just felt sicker than a dog. But I have shown up every single time. And I believe that has been a crucial element of the success I have enjoyed in that endeavor, because once again, it is controllable. It's not always fun. There have been many days when I didn't feel like running the game at first. I thought to myself, oh, I just want to sleep, or I just want to break, or I just want to give my brain a rest. But then I would show up and I'd fire up my computer and I'd fire up Owlbear Rodeo. And then I'd jump in and say, hey guys, how's it going? Happy Wednesday, or whatever day it is, And it's like, let's jump into the story. Here's where we left off, and I'll get into it. And, there were times when I had to really push myself, and it just felt like I was just dragging myself along. But you know what? I did learn as I was doing this, as I made this consistent. And I've been going now for 5 months running pro games, going on pretty soon to be 6 months. I started realizing that consistency became easier because the muscles grew. This week, I ran the games, and to be really honest, they didn't even really emotionally tax me that much. In fact, even my kind of early morning games where I'm sometimes struggling with a bit of creative energy, even those games, I was kind of showing up pumped and ready to rock and roll way more than usual. What's the secret? Was I getting more sleep? Did I find a new energy, loss of energy cure? Did I find a new creative power drug? No, none of that. In fact, I had no more reason to feel creative during this part, this week than I did the weeks prior. The only thing that was different was the muscles had grown a bit and I was a little bit more used to it. So we can step up into the path we set for ourselves. We can step up into the consistency we desire. And the truth is, this week, I've got to hit it hard on that workout. I've got to start getting consistent with my workout. I've got to start getting consistent with my diet habits because I want to get in better shape, right? I want to launch more initiatives in the GM Philosophy Discord, which, by the way, if you haven't joined our Discord, links in the description. We are over 600 Game Masters strong at this point. Empowering Game Masters to run better games is the goal in the Discord. Make sure you join us and hang out with us. But I want to launch better health initiatives in there. We need to be taking good care of our health, guys. I'm getting ready to turn 40 this year. I want to be the kind of human who lives a long time and accomplishes a lot of good in this life. I have big goals and big dreams, and I want to be feeling good and performing well in order to make that happen. But here's the thing. Consistency is key. If you wait until you have all the energy to do it, if you wait until you have all the creativity, if you wait until you are not exhausted, life is going to pass you by, my friends. We can control being consistent, even though we can't always control how we feel about it. But I will also say this, that the human body and the human mind is so brilliant because it seems designed specifically to help us adapt to our environment and help us to adapt to the needs of whatever state we find ourselves in. We seem to evolve and adapt and sort of be fluid enough that we can become the person we need to be to make the best of our surroundings and to really grow better at those things, right? So things like showing up every day for videos, showing up every day for D&D. So at the end of the day, I guess here's what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with a word of encouragement today. I want you to know that if you sometimes feel creatively burnt out, if you sometimes feel creatively empty, if you sometimes feel like you don't have the energy to run a great game or to, write in your book you're writing, or to draw the painting you're trying to draw, or, to start the business you want to start, whatever it is, guys. And I know that this is more general. Generally, I'm making all D&D content, but today this video is a lot more about general life ideology and success ideology than D&D, but you can apply it to D&D. And I do, because this is my business, this is my work every single day. But you can set yourself up for success by understanding that when your goals begin to tax you, you are not the only one. I have been feeling this. I mean, I'm constantly trying to push the boundaries of what I can do to make this channel succeed, to make my games better, to do everything better. And the truth is that as I perform at a higher level of consistency, I become more capable of a higher level. Whereas when I fall off the map, it just feels like I'm not capable of anything. Partly that's because I'm disappointed in myself, but partly that's because once I fall out of practice, I lose that motivation. I lose that self-belief. I really believe this. So you got to do what's healthy for you. Don't necessarily push yourself like I do. If that's not the right thing, if your body is telling you one thing, but you feel pulled to do more, you may want to listen to your body. You may want to give yourself a break. I'm not trying to tell you not to give yourself a break, but I'm telling you how I think of it. I'm telling you how I conceptualize it. And I'm telling you what I want to do. And the reason I kind of made this video to talk about this is because I literally, at the time I sat down to film this video, I had zero creative energy. All my creative energy was gone. I had just run my 5th game of the week. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I looked at lists and lists that I have made of D&D topics I could cover, and I didn't feel like covering a single one of them, guys, because the tank's on empty. So this is the video I made. Partly, I just made this video and tried to put as much value into it as I could so that I could show up for myself and be consistent on this journey of making videos on YouTube, getting back on the train of publishing every day. And hopefully there's something in this that'll help you. There's a big part of this video that is very self-serving because this was me just going through the motions and making a video, trying my best to deliver value that matters. And maybe the truth is, actually, this is probably a more important lesson than most things I talk about. I just haven't talked about it very much because I don't generally back out and get this broad about like success principles. But there you go. That's what I have to say. Thank you all so much for coming back for another episode of Gym Philosophy in the Morning. Empowering Game Masters to run better games is the goal. Roll some D100s for me at your next game, guys, and I will see you awesome people on the next one.